Today is going to be a day in the life with me and my little 3D print business in my basement workshop. If you're new here, my name is Chris, and I've been running and documenting my business journey since about last year at this time. I started in January of 2024. Today we'll be going through some questions. I've got some orders to pack and a couple little projects to do in my workshop here. It's going to be kind of a chill morning, so feel free to grab yourself a cup of coffee or whatever you drink. Sit back, relax, and work on some projects of your own. Let's get going. First thing generally in the morning is kind of tackling the stuff that takes the longest. So I'll go ahead and get some prints pulled off right here. That way I can get new stuff queued up. Business-wise, some of you are probably curious, for those who have stuck around on the channel for quite a while. I've been a little hiatus the last couple of weeks on the long-form videos, but I have been putting out shorts. And it's just been a mixture of some family vacations and travel around where I live. And then business has been crazy. So the time that I have had to film, I've actually been just working on business and printing and getting orders out. Coming back from Labor Day a couple weekends ago, it was just absolutely nuts. I had 25 open orders to finish out the month of August there, going in, end of August. So I had a lot of work ahead of me, and I was actually going to be gone this past weekend and leaving on Friday and coming home Monday night. So what that meant for me is coming in on September 2nd, or I guess technically let's say September 1st, so that was Labor Day. I had 24 orders that I had to get out within 4 days because I had to ship them Friday morning before I left. So it was just nuts. I didn't have time to film. I was printing on all of these. I retooled my printers, my A1 minis on the other side of my basement here that I haven't actually used for business stuff in a little while. And they were running full tilt as well to get products out the door. So that was cool. And then since then, we're already kind of pacing really well for this month. And last month we had over 100 orders again, which means 2 consecutive months with over 100 orders. And then this month, so far, we are on pace to exceed 100 as well. I am kind of finding my rhythm with doing, getting orders out, getting them queued up. That will be one of the projects today, is organizing where actually the camera is to stage orders. But I'm getting better at it. It's quite a process to do all of this. A lot of the orders are custom. And when I say custom, I mean like, it's not something you can batch print. So we sell a lot of different items, whether it be through my shop or my partner shops in Germany. Each customer can kind of order what they want, but the amount of time it takes to print and the amount of different options for each product is just not necessarily something at this point that we can batch print effectively. So it's just not worth doing that, which means I'm sitting here running the printers. But when it was crazy, crazy busy for those 4 days straight last week or so, I literally woke up at 8 in the morning, came down, switched prints over, and then from 8 a.m. until midnight, when I did the last changeover to run while I was sleeping, I was basically monitoring these printers. Now, I will say, for those of you who are getting interested in starting a 3D printing business, I wasn't like physically sitting here the whole time running those printers, but I had my phone on me with the Bambu Handy app, and I was checking things out. And I would go on a walk, go to the coffee shop, do some work, hang out with my daughter, do some stuff around the house, come down, switch prints over. And then once I had enough, I'd go ahead and get them all packed in boxes and whatnot. So it's not like I was staring at the printers and watching paint dry. You can do other stuff in between, which is nice. But all in all, that's the reason why things have been so crazy. And then on top of that, I also had a printer go down. So now that I've got these off the printers, and we got a little bit more here actually. The last thing I need to work on, which was kind of a problem, and one of the main reasons I spun up my A1 minis, is this printer down here on the bottom, which I'll show you in a second, I'm having some extrusion issues with. And I bought the hardened steel equipment, and I'm still having trouble. with the printer. I can't get it to work. I've tried a different SD card, but that will be the next kind of project today, is maybe do some troubleshooting on the printer. I need to test to see if the AMS is actually the cause of the problem, because there's a chance that my extrusion issues are because of the PTFE tubes or something like that. But it's this printer down here, so I'll go ahead and get this set up on my desk. That's why I kind of cleaned up this morning. Did that before I turned the camera on, but get this set up and then we can kind of work on the next project. But let's keep going. First thing I'd like to talk about is actually repairability on these machines. I've had very little issues with any of my Bambu machines, but I know people talk about how it's a closed source system. And while that's true, it does have a closed ecosystem to some extent. They do offer actually a lot of parts available. So I was able to find pretty much every single part that I could possibly need to rebuild the entire machine. I just ordered a couple, the hardened steel nozzles and the extruder gears, hopefully to solve some problems. But overall, I've been pretty happy with the accessibility to fix these machines on my own, and I'm okay with kind of pulling things apart and tinkering myself. Got that moved. Next thing to do before I forget is actually get some rolls of filament on the printers and then get those next orders started. I like to run 2 rolls of black at a time. That way I can use the full roll during a print cycle. Saves me some material, even though maybe it's not a ton. And it gives me an idea of how much I have. This is kind of where my current storage is for filament. So I'm gonna be rocking 3 more of the black, which is primarily what I print. That gives me only 4 in reserve. And then I actually have a whole bunch down here. Now, I bought a single roll of every color from Bambu on the matte spectrum. I'm doing some multicolor prints for a new shop that I opened, which is another secret shop, so I'm not going to tell you. But overall, I might need to make another filament order because 4 extra rolls in reserve is not that much. And I think I have 1 on each of my A1 minis over there too, so maybe a little bit more than I think I have. But let me get that going, and then we can start diagnosing some of the stuff on the big printer. I'd also like to address some of the negative comments that I've seen on some of my YouTube videos recently. The whole point of this channel is to give you an unfiltered view on how much work and how much time it takes to build a business. For full transparency, guys, and I try to do this for you, but my best month so far net profit was $3,000, and it's growing each month, which is fantastic. But I reinvested that $3,000 back into the business. So far, I've not really paid myself anything for all this work that I've done. And I want you to understand that, like, I am working on building this business to a point that I can support my family. That's been the goal the whole time. But it takes a lot of work, and I don't want the YouTube channel or what I share here to be a flaunting of that in any way, but just to understand that, like, I have to be transparent. There's a lot of work that goes into it. It's not an easy process, but it is definitely fun. So be sure to stick around. I think some cool things will happen this year. Printers are all going. That's great. That will be like several hours until I have to change that over. Now, let's do some diagnosis on here. So I think some of you may have already seen, but I'll put maybe right here, I'll put a clip of the short that I put out about the extruder gear and what happened on the inside. Basically, it's grinding the filament. And a few possible things. One, it could be too wet, which is kind of hard to do with PLA. I've never run into that problem, and I've printed a lot of PLA. But I've even dried it out. I've tried new filaments, so I know it's not the filament. And here's an example. You can kind of see, maybe. You can see it's like tearing up, and that's a clean build plate, but it's not adhering, and it just looks bad all around. So the other option is maybe that the gears were worn out. So to fix that, I actually bought a set of hardened steel extruder gears and a hardened steel nozzle. I also talked about that, I believe, in my short, or at least on the live stream that I did last week. A little plug, if you're new here, I do live streams every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, where you can just kind of jump in and ask me some questions live. It's a great place just to kind of interact with me. I do try to get to comments on YouTube, but especially recently, I had like one of my shorts actually blew up and went to like, had 1 million views or something, I just can't respond between work and everything else to all the comments. So I have to prioritize where I'm spending my time. The live streams, if you actually have questions for me, are the best because it's much easier for me just to verbalize things. It takes me a lot longer to sit down and actually type something out. That's not my strong suit. So if you want to ask me questions there, feel free to join in. Back to this though, what we need to do is actually try doing an external loading of some filament, and then we can see if it's still having the problems. If it still has the problems, that tells me that it's not the AMS unit, which is one of my suspicions. And then the next thing I'll try is changing out all the PTFE tubes. And if that fails, then I'll probably have to contact Bambu support, which would be kind of a major bummer. But let me go grab some filament and we're gonna be using this, which is some of the free filament that they sent me when I bought these printers. But let's go ahead and do a manual load. While that's doing its thing, yes, I do enjoy lo-fi music quite a lot. And YouTube has these really nice like animated coffee shop or like backgrounds and stuff. I do enjoy it. It's just pleasant to look at. Highly recommend, by the way. Kind of two options here. You can either do a calibration test, but I think just to see, I'll just run the last print job that I had on here and cross our fingers that this works. While this is preheating, something to note is that there's actually a calibration tool in Bambu Studio up here. You can see the other tabs. Under the calibration, you can do flow dynamics and flow rates. If you have not done this for your machine, I highly recommend it. And then the other tip I would have for you is when I was doing the filament changeover, you might have saw me put stuff here. Having about 8 to 12 inches of space in front of your printer on top of your work surface is super, super helpful. You can put a build plate on top of it and use the scraper on it. You can put filament or the parts that you just pulled off. Not having that space, which is what I had previously, is kind of tricky. It's not tricky, it's just kind of annoying. Having it is very convenient. So if you're building out a shop for some 3D printers, I'd definitely recommend putting a gap there with maybe 8 to 12 inches. Let's let that run and I'll finish off these 2 orders here so that way I can get them packed up. Just printed out the shipping labels. I sometimes have people ask me, can you show me how to buy shipping labels or get shipping labels or that process? And I'll tell you what, there's just not an easy way to do that where I don't reveal customer info. So I probably will not be doing that. But I will tell you that buying shipping labels, especially on Etsy, is probably one of the easiest parts of the process. So if you're running a business, doing 3D printing, getting stuff packed and all of that jazz, I guarantee you, you can figure out how to buy a shipping label, especially on Etsy. Not that hard, but what I need to do here is actually go and get a pen. I like to write a little thank you on the orders, which is just a nice little touch. Something as simple as like, thanks for your support. I know some of you are probably tired of hearing about different shipping things, but I do like these lunch bags to ship items in. They're relatively cheap and you can get your 3D printed items in there, roll it up, and it's now protected. And then I'll still use the, whatever you want to call it, this paper material to wrap it in as well. Go ahead and get a couple boxes queued up. So it's as simple as a box. Take your product, stuff it in, and then I'll put the packing slip on top there. That's it. This looks like it's working just as expected. Not having any issues. I'm gonna let this run out. It's gonna be another 20 minutes or so, but I've got my orders packed, got new prints on the docket. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up here for today. What you just saw is pretty much just a repeat. When I have longer days, it's gonna be going ahead and assembling some orders, packing some orders, starting some orders, doing some, product development, and also, getting YouTube and all that other stuff squared away. But thanks again for tuning in. I really appreciate it. If you want to watch my business journey, ask questions, be part of the community, feel free to like and subscribe. It really does help a lot. I appreciate it. I have live streams on Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern where you can ask me questions directly. And if you really want to be a part of the community, you can always support me on Patreon, potentially be up here on the pipe with some of my other Patreon supporters. There are some things on the Patreon that will help you out in your day-to-day. And then I'm also hopefully gonna spin up a Discord maybe this month based off community feedback. Everybody's kind of asking for it. So thanks again for tuning in. I'm gonna go enjoy the rest of my day, edit this video, and I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.